Everybody, some Mad Master here. Just doing another video. It's kind of a follow up to my last one. And I've been trying to figure out things for quite a while with all the stuff that's going on. And I think I have a hypothesis about what's really happening right now, what the elites are trying to do. And I'm going to try to really censor myself here because YouTube obviously is not the best for the best medium for this, but it's the most easy on my phone to rip videos and put it up. So I've kind of figured out what the narrative that the conspiracy crowd is trying to get at as far as what they say is trying to happen. So they think this is what they're trying to happen, and correct me if I'm wrong, or I hope I'm damn wrong, and I hope all this shit is just crazy balderdash, and I hope 5 years from now we just laughing back at a lot of this stuff. And I'm not going to say that they used a certain biomedical thing for this, or or they did or used some type of organism or bacteria or virus for this or anything. I'm not saying that. Opportunism does exist though. So I think what they want, or what these people are trying to, what it all adds up to, is that the elites are trying to push this kind of like transhumanist agenda with controlling people in this very organized technocratic fashion. And the whole thing, I'm just gonna lay it all out for everybody that's watching this. So this is basically what I've come up with watching all this media and reading books even. They want people to be all organized into this system, this grid. And this grid exists with digital currency, and basically you have to be all hooked into this thing, right? I'm not going to go into too much of the transhuman thing. I'm a little confused about that whole thing. I guess the meta thing, the whole meta thing kind of ties into that, because it seems like that's the direction they're going in with all this stuff, the virtual reality, VR, and artificial stuff, that they're trying to do. I don't know what the point of it is necessarily for the regular person to be in that whole thing, because I would think that the elites would want to have that for themselves so they can live forever or whatever. But the whole thing with this is that there's the economy, the fiat currency, was on its last legs. So they used or created, depending on who you believe, a crisis to slow down the end of that, because they had to slow things down, because otherwise it was going towards a precipice, or at least they believed it was. And I think there has something to do with, this is another thing, I think it has something to do with the economic systems of different countries, and maybe China versus the United States. And I haven't really fully fleshed this out yet, but this is what they were trying to do. So they saw this crisis, or created it probably. Problem reaction solution is a classic, the Hegelian dialect, whatever you want to call it. These things have been around the truth conspiracy community for years, by the way. They created this crisis, or took advantage of it, to destroy, and they're trying to destroy. This is, I don't know what I think about this, but hopefully YouTube, I'm not talking about anything medical in this, by the way. There's nothing medical about what I'm saying here. So YouTube, fuck off. Anyways, they're trying to create this system, this grid, right? This control grid. And why they need this kind of control grid, I don't know what the intent of it is, but it feels like, okay, you have this digital money right on your phone. I have actually, I buy crypto, so I know what this is all, I already experienced this, but this one world kind of replacement for the fiat currency dollar. And if you're not following and who are they? Who are these people, these billionaires? I don't know if it's all one consortium of people, or just various, I think it's more chaotic than a lot of the conspiracy crowd says, because nothing is can be that organized. But I think the essential intentions of these billionaires, I think they do have right. I don't think that it's one necessarily one organization or it's a World Economic Forum. It's Klaus. Um, I'm not going to say his name. Klaus. Santa Claus Schwab. I'm just using some code words. So who knows if this is going to be banned or not. But I don't know if it's one person. I don't know if it's one consortium or organization or system. But what happens when these researchers do their research? They read a bunch of different documents from different organizations, different think tanks, right? So just like when the Project for a New American Century, that infamous document that kind of presaged 9/11, people talked about that. It was just all over the place. It's like when these researchers do this research, they say, "Oh, see here, they said the United States needed a new Pearl Harbor to be the dominant guy in the block now. The neocons. Oh, what happens? 9/11 2 years later, or was it 3 years later? I think it was 1998 when the PNAC document was written. So when these conspiracy researchers read this stuff, they're making these projections that may or may not be true. Okay. There might be signs of it being true, and some of it could be disinformation. A lot of it is, just like the whole C-20 Canada. I'm not going to say what it is. You probably know what I'm talking about. This whole thing came out last year. It's like, oh, we're going to have camps in Canada and all this crazy shit. And it was proven wrong, and it never happened, even though there's a lot of stuff that's kind of like more close to it than you would have wanted, of course. I mean, but yeah, so these people, these planning documents and all these think tanks, maybe 30% of it. I mean, sometimes it's not even, they have all these plans. Like, the neocons thing was to take over the Middle East, basically, have democracy. But of course, at the end of the day, all we had was chaos. All we had was war. We had a few people take over, you had the what's it called? I forgot what it was called. It was like the Egyptian Spring, or like the Middle East Spring, or whatever they called it. When you had these people on Twitter, they're taking over their governments, and then it just kind of fell flat. It's like you had the Arab Spring, that was what it was called. You had all these things happen, but they never really led to anything, right? They just led to, like, we'll look at Libya. There's open slave markets there. Oh, I'm really proud of you, Hillary, for pursuing slavery in Libya. That's great, But anyways, that's what happens with these plans. These plans are idealistic plans. Like, oh, we're gonna take over the Middle East. We're gonna have democracy, which is basically corporations. The capitalist corporate, or crony capitalism in the Middle East, basically, with maybe some freedoms restored to the people. I don't know. It depends on what you consider that. Or we're going to take over all these countries. Never happened. They tried. They tried with a couple of places. It fell flat in its face, or it failed, or backfired. So a lot of these things backfired. That's one thing to look at these things. So you got to look at these things like what they're trying to do now, the Great Reset or whatever. Maybe it is true. Maybe all this stuff is leading to that with the VIR-US and all that stuff, right? Maybe it was all about that, right? Maybe it's all this Great Reset thing. It's going to fail because on some level, it hasn't failed, right? People have been richer than they ever have. But it has a good chance of failing because these people are so full of hubris that they cannot foresee what comes in the future. They say, oh, we have this planning document, World Economic Forum, we're all going to be, the whole infamous, you'll own nothing and be happy, that terrible advertisement that they did, a few years ago on that. And then these articles that said, oh, I don't own anything, but I'm happy, all this stuff, and I live in a pod and I eat bugs or whatever. There's a lot of crazy shit. I mean, some of it sounds crazy, but it's probably not as crazy as people think, because it is some of the planning documents. They say, oh, we should be eating insects to save the environment. We should all live in pods and not drive anywhere and be remote work, do remote work, and for the rest of our lives, and have to have this digital pass to go anywhere, or outside your house, or out in a grocery store, or your state, or outside your state, or whatever, or across state lines. Chris Taylor, I'm fucking so sick of that. Anyways, I don't know if it's going to work. I highly doubt it at this point that it's going to work because these plans always go to shit because people aren't machines. For one, I don't know about the transhuman thing. I'm not sure about that. That's one thing like some of these people talk about. And we're not machines. We're not statistics. I talked about this in my Vietnam video, months back. We're not little stats on a graph, right? We're people. And that's what a lot of people didn't understand in the Vietnam War. These technocrats, technocrat doesn't mean like just a big tech like oligarch trying to control everything to make money. It means there's a specific meaning for that. So it's like these people that just have these. They're all about technical things. They're all about numbers, number cruncher, like McNamara, right? And McNamara just could not foresee that people will not go for the win the hearts and minds of the Viet Cong, and it's like no, because his logic had no emotion, and it took over. It was all logic. It was no humanity. So the human elements that these people try to defy and try to have people, or they escape from it. They don't realize that this is there. So they will fail time and time again because they do not know how to feel. If they're actually sociopaths, actual narcissists, actual psychopaths in power, the elites, they don't know how to feel. They don't know how to empathize. So their shit is set to failure. Okay, they got up to this big corporate, billionaire thing, or they inherited it, or invested it, or had something happen where they're rich and powerful beyond their dreams, right? And that some of the sociopathy got them there, right? But when they're on the top, trying to control top down the people, the masses, they're going to run into a lot of shit. Like Klaus Schwab said himself, but the future will be full of angry people. Well, no shit, because you're trying to control everything, trying to control people, trying to tell people what to do, what people could do, put in their fucking bodies. You're going to get some pushback. So ultimately, I think this is kind of a very loose affiliation of people that are trying to do these things, and I think they do want us to have. They do want top-down control, top-down, tracking people, and they think it's for the environment. Obviously they can, of course, like just like the last 2 years, they can have their like $1 million, gas guzzling car, but we can't. The masses, the plebs can't have the luxuries that they have. That's always how it is. That's a class struggle 101. I'm not a Marxist, but I think Marx had it spot on as far as class struggle. I don't believe in his prescription necessarily, but I think he was right, about a lot of that stuff. So he wasn't, these people will always be hypocritical. Stalin had didn't he live in like a palace or some shit, the people in power will always defy their own rules that they set for others themselves. So the whole thing with the last 2 years is not surprising. This is just the nature of power and corruption. And unfortunately, people follow it and want it to happen. The masses, a lot of them want this to happen. They think it's good. They think, I'm so happy with working at home for the rest of my life. Oh, I'm so happy with wearing a mask everywhere. I won't get colds or flu anymore. But you're falling into their game. You're complying with the inhumane, the people that want to push inhumanity upon other people. And that's my true belief. I truly believe that's what this is, at least partially about, possibly. I mean, I'm open to saying it's all bullshit. I'm open to believing that it's all just, all conspiracy, nuttery, tinfoil hat, wearing bullshit, right? But if it isn't, then at least I took a stand. I was foolish, but at least I did not comply completely, and I tried to fight back. That's all I can say. So I think that's what they want. I think that's just like that commercial that came out, or that like demonstration of this app that had all your stuff on it, and it was really hilarious. It's on one of Jimmy Dore's shows too. He talks about this ad, and I can't remember the name of the company, but you had everything on one app, like your banking stuff and all this stuff. They want people to do this shit. They want people to be controlled. That's why we got to create alternatives, alternative venues to do things, alternatives to things. And I don't think that necessarily the United States will follow this whole thing, because look at what's happening now. I mean, as far as mandates, my friend the other day told me that, or not my friend, no, I found out that people are getting, actually, yeah, it was him and some other people on Twitter. People are getting exemptions somehow. Federal people are getting exemptions. People that are federal contractors are getting exempted. I mean, how is that happening? I mean, a lot of this is propaganda. You think, I'm not saying that your personal anecdotal story that, oh, I couldn't get an exemption, I'm a federal contractor, I'm getting fired on December 5th or whatever for not putting something in my body, right? I'm not saying that's everybody's story and everybody's narrative, but obviously there's a lot of shit going on right now that we don't that they don't talk about. So it's like, I don't think the United States necessarily will follow this global system that they're trying to implement, which I do believe, at least in part, they're trying to do. And I don't think it's necessarily one person woke up one day and said, hey, let's get everybody to be digitally controlled by the technocrats, right? I don't necessarily believe that, but it's these trends of these people. It's more like trends. It's like, let's say like grunge rock. You predicted that grunge rock would take over in 1991 and 92, right? But there would only be one band doing it, Nirvana, right? Oh, Nirvana is going to be everywhere, and that's all the bands that people will talk about. Well, independently, people are doing these things. This is a trend. It's a trend, would it be, collective unconscious or whatever you want to call it. It's a trend of these people to try to do this kind of digital control system amongst these billionaire elite technocrats or whatever, the big tech people, right? They want to make money too. I mean, don't forget the money element. That's a big part of it. These billionaires, World Economic Forum. I mean, people have talked about this. Even people that are not like necessarily conspiracy theorists or talk about the World Economic Forum. I mean, even Richard Wolff, who I mentioned in a previous video, he talked about the Great Reset. It's just the same billionaires trying to make money and jerk each other off as usual through history. It's like it's nothing new that they're trying to do stuff like this. And necessarily, they've always tried to control people, but on a global, massive scale, this is the first time that they've had this type of leeway. That's the truth. That is the truth. Nobody can even deny that. Oh, 9/11, they had a lot of control over the West, right? But worldwide system they're trying to do with all this stuff. Doesn't mean that I believe anything is the harmless. I don't think that the is harmless or nobody dies or whatever. Of people that died and stuff. It's not, has nothing to. But the way they're implementing this, the way that they're using this, and even relatives of mine that were. He's like, well, I don't like how they use 9/11 to go to war with Iraq. Well, okay. Well, a few months before, I was talking about, 9/11 truth stuff, before we had that conversation. But, at least you're halfway there, At least these people are halfway to knowing, that a lot of this is bullshit. But, and something could happen. And these types of patterns that I see in 3 or 4 months, maybe, a lot more people on the left, the true left, not the MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, Don Lemon, CNN, pseudo woke left, corporatist fucking douchebag left. I mean, like shitlib left, as they call it, as people are calling it nowadays. I mean, the real left, like people like actually on the left will like see, like there'll be something else that comes out and like, oh my God, that's too far for me. That's too far for me. Just like with Iraq. I mean, people were saying, Bush was a fucking lying sack of shit. They were talking about, how this was bullshit. This was all, problem, reaction, solution with 9/11, possibly, People were talking about that for years. And finally, something threatens them because their son might have to go to to Iraq. Or, oh God, now we care. Now we're red pilled. That, but you're a crazy un-American conspiracy theorist if you think 9/11 was even, known about before it happened. Fuck you, and I got criticized for believing that. Not by many people, because most people kind of understand what I'm trying to get at with a lot of this stuff. But certain people didn't believe it. But it's like, when are people going to wake up? But I think people will. I think there will be resistance against what's going on. I think there is a legitimate effort to do some of these things, and I don't know if it's all ubiquitous across the line and all these people are in and on it together. I don't know, but these trends are there. These trends are at least there, of these conglomerates trying to take control, whether you believe they caused it or whether you believe they are opportunists. It is true. It is real, right? Some of this stuff is real. Look at what's happening with Australia. You couldn't leave the house without some kind of like scanning your face or some shit or whatever. All these things, all these crazy like dystopian ideas that eventually, hopefully, people will wake up to and say, fuck no, fuck this, I'm done with this, I'm done with having to do all this shit, and revolt and resist, because a lot more people are waking up. I've seen people, I've watched YouTubers, like there was this, I'm not going to mention her name, but this astrologer that I was watching last year, and I was like, she was like really pro-Biden and stuff, and then she was on certain red-pilled rappers, they interviewed each other. You probably know who I'm talking about, but this is a very attractive young astrologer that was very, very into the Biden, like, oh, I want him to win, like drew in the chart and stuff, and you can kind of tell it, that's what she was saying. But then she's like totally out there now, and then a lot of people are like that, and Max Blumenthal, or people that are kind of in Caitlin Johnstone, and all these people on the left are kind of waking up to that they're trying to do this thing, and it's fucked up. And this reminds me of 2004, because people are starting to say, hey, wait a minute, this Bush thing is like this Bush doctrine, these neocons. Oh yeah, after 9/11 I had an American flag up on my fucking wall and I jerked off all over it, or whatever. But I'm just exaggerating. But now, I'm starting to question these things a little bit. There's something weird about this. You had Loose Change come out, and what was it called? The documentary that led to the 9/11 Commission with the wives of the many of those who died. I'm trying to remember the name of the documentary, but you had all these documentaries come out, that were questioning the Bush narrative and the neocons and 9/11. Even within the Iraq war thing, even from the left, from the legitimate left, legitimately. I remember when fucking Sam Cedar questioned 9/11. Now he's just a total establishment moron, but, people were questioning this shit. Fahrenheit 9/11 came out, which was not a conspiracy movie, but it's like, well, wait a minute, And this happened like 2004, 2005. This was starting to happen. I think we're kind of, if we had to like talk about the time period we're at, like late 2003, early 2004, going into this kind of like this thing, well, people are like saying, wait a minute, why am I still having to wear a mask through the next year? And I'm not saying that masks, you can believe what you want about masks, but why? Why are we having to do all this stuff? Or my relative just got really sick, and they've had 5 Wi-Fi boosters, right? Or my friend is in the hospital, and he's he just got the thing. It's like, I'm not saying that always happens, but even fucking what's his name from the Pfizer guy is like, oh, there's breakthroughs are a lot more common than we've thought or have said. It's like, okay, wait a second. They're trying, people are starting to question things. The more this shit goes on, the more people will question. I don't know if they're going to comply. Unfortunately, people are a bunch of lemming morons, most of humanity. Very misanthropic statement. But they follow the mainstream media or whatever the fucking government tells them, and they're fucking stupid. But most people, other than me, because I'm perfect. But, so anyways, that's the way it goes. So, and I had the Jabba Dabba Do too, so who am I to say anything at this point? Even though I had the Miller Lite of Jabba Dabba Doos, according to this comedian I saw a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So, and he was making fun of himself because he had the same one, and he's criticizing some of the morons that are bashing him for it. So it's like, so yeah. Anyways, yeah. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but I think humanity will prevail. I think humans will prevail. We'll fight the system, and but we've got to take over. We've got to take charge of ourselves, our own lives, and not comply when things are unreasonable. I'm not going to comply to what's going on and what they're trying to do. The system where you have to get this thing every couple months and to check in with this thing and all this stuff. And I'm not saying that that's what they're doing, but it seems like that's the direction they're going. Even when legitimate medical people will question the Wi-Fi boost. Like former Obama people, University of California people, medical people. Oh shit, I'm going to go on a dangerous territory. We'll see if this passes muster or not. If I get banned again, I don't care. Whatever. I'm just, whatever. So, legitimate people are questioning the boombox stir. I don't know. I'm trying to think of stupid fucking code words, but the Wi-Fi, the boost, the Wi-Fi boost, right? You're getting you get if you can't reach, or you get your cell phone booster, right? Because we offer that, the company I work for, we have a booster you can get to accentuate your signal for your cell phone. Well, let's say, don't you call in a question if you need that though? Maybe your service sucks. My service sucks because these towers are going down and stuff. Oh, I guess I have to get a booster. If the service was good, then you don't need that, right? If your phone was fucking good, you wouldn't need that. Wait a second, I'm starting to question this. I'm a typical American moron. So yeah, I've got to question shit and fight it. I'm gonna fight in my own way. Because it's gone on way too long. We gotta get to the truth. And if shit is, gets worse, then fuck. I mean, I don't know, but they've lied to us. They've tried to use this for whatever they're trying to do. They could. I think they might be lying in the other direction too sometimes too. Like I've hinted at. They could be lying about all sorts of stuff they're trying to do with all this, and it's just it's bullshit. It's got to be defied, and it will be. It will be defied, and it will be questioned. And America's ground zero for that, I think. Hopefully. No, actually, it's not, because Austria and Australia, there's huge protests. In America, there's nothing. But there's lawyers, America's good for lawyers and good for lawsuits and good for politicians trying to grandstand on their own, on the other side, too, DeSantis or whatever. But I think hopefully we'll clear out from this chaos and become better people. But I don't know. It's just gotten so toxic. And I said I was going to stop talking about it. I said I was going to stop researching and looking at stuff, but I can't stop. I guess for now I'll try to make more variety of stuff, on this channel. But I just wanted to make a statement about what I believe they're trying to do, and there's really no, there's no end game. Seemingly, it's just these variety of little things that they want. It's like, what do they expect people to do? They expect people to not know about the past, where you could go places, without having this app or whatever, or digital currency or whatever the fuck. I don't really know what they expect, but what do they expect before with all these plans that they've done that totally crashed and burned, like in the Middle East, like in, just all this stuff. It always backfires because they do not know they do not have empathy for people because they are sociopaths. Whether or not they're born that way or, conditioned because they're rich or whatever, that's a debate for another time. But that's about all.